Rome, under the reign of Augustus, enjoyed an unprecedented period of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. After decades of civil wars and political turmoil, Augustus had unified the empire, implemented administrative reforms, and fostered arts and culture. However, as he aged, a lingering concern emerged. Who would be the successor capable of preserving this stability and continuing his legacy? Among the possible heirs, Tiberius stood out, a renowned general and a member of the imperial family. Known for his military conquests and strict discipline, he lacked Augustus's charisma and popularity. Reserved and introspective, Tiberius was reluctant to engage in Rome's political intrigues. This is the story of Tiberius, the forgotten emperor of Rome, a leader whose achievements were overshadowed by negative narratives and more flamboyant figures who followed him. In exploring his life and reign, we seek to understand how a man who upheld the greatness of Rome could be relegated to obscurity and what lessons his journey offers for posterity. Born in 42 BC, Tiberius Claudius Nero was the son of Livia Drusilla and Tiberius Claudius Nero, both members of the Roman aristocracy. From an early age, his life was immersed in the political complexities of Rome. When his mother married Augustus, the young Tiberius was introduced to the imperial family, a position that brought both privileges and pressures. Educated in the best Roman traditions, Tiberius received instruction in rhetoric, philosophy, and above all, in the military arts. Tall and with an imposing posture, he displayed a natural aptitude for leadership on the battlefield. His first campaigns took place in the regions of Germania and Illyria, where he demonstrated courage and strategic skill. The victories he achieved not only expanded the empire's borders, but also earned him honors and recognition in Rome. Despite his military triumphs, Tiberius remained a reserved individual. He preferred the discipline and order of the legions to the political chaos of the capital. This inclination towards the military environment reinforced his image as an austere and distant man, traits not always well understood by the Roman elite. The experiences of his childhood, marked by his parents' divorce and his forced integration into Augustus's family, shaped his introspective and distrustful character. He often felt like a pawn in a larger political game, a feeling that would accompany him throughout his life. This perception would influence his future decisions and his complex relationship with power and the imperial family. Tiberius's military achievements solidified his reputation as one of Rome's most competent generals. However, his personal life was marked by turmoil that would deeply affect his relationship with Augustus and his position in the imperial hierarchy. Initially, Tiberius was married to Vipsania Agrippina, the daughter of General Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa. By all accounts, the marriage was happy and produced a son, Drusus the Younger. Vipsania was considered a devoted companion, and Tiberius found comfort and stability in her. However, in a political move aimed at strengthening family ties, Augustus ordered Tiberius to divorce Vipsania and marry his own daughter, Julia the Elder, who had recently been widowed. The new marriage was unhappy from the start. Julia, known for her free spirit and involvement in scandals, had little in common with the austere Tiberius. Their incompatibility was evident, and Julia's infidelities became public knowledge, humiliating Tiberius and tarnishing his reputation. Feeling manipulated and disrespected, Tiberius began to harbor resentment towards Augustus. The perception that he was being used as a pawn in political alliances shook his confidence in his stepfather. Amid these tensions, Tiberius made the surprising decision to exile himself to Rhodes. Officially, he claimed he wished to study philosophy and withdraw from public life. However, many saw this act as an escape from the intrigues of Rome and a silent protest against Augustus. The exile had significant consequences. His prolonged absence fueled rumors about his ambitions and loyalty. The people and Senate began to question his commitment to Rome's well-being. Additionally, other potential heirs gained prominence, further diminishing Tiberius's position in the line of succession. The voluntary isolation, which initially seemed like a quest for inner peace, ultimately harmed his public image and distanced him from the center of power. The premature deaths of Augustus's chosen heirs, Gaius and Lucius Caesar, drastically changed the political landscape in Rome. With the succession in jeopardy, Augustus had no choice but to call Tiberius back from exile in Rhodes. In 4 AD, Tiberius was officially adopted by Augustus, becoming his son and legitimate heir. Despite this, Tiberius accepted the role with evident reluctance, aware of the political traps that awaited him. Back in Rome, Tiberius was granted tribunician and proconsular powers, sharing governmental responsibilities with Augustus. He led military campaigns on the empire's frontiers, reinforcing security and demonstrating his commitment to protecting Rome. However, his relationship with Augustus remained strained. Many believed that Augustus still hoped for another option for succession, keeping Tiberius under constant scrutiny. In 14 AD, Augustus died, and Tiberius ascended to the throne as emperor. In his first speech to the Senate, he showed hesitation, suggesting that power should be shared among the senators. Some interpreted this as humility, while others saw it as insecurity or political manipulation. This ambiguity marked the beginning of a complicated reign. Challenges soon arose. Military revolts broke out in the legions of Germania and Pannonia, with soldiers demanding better conditions and pay. Tiberius sent his son Drusus and his nephew Germanicus to deal with the insurrections. Germanicus, charismatic and popular among the troops, managed to calm the revolts, further boosting his own reputation. While Tiberius was relieved by the resolution of the conflicts, he felt threatened by Germanicus's growing prestige. The constant comparisons to Augustus weighed heavily on Tiberius. While his predecessor was loved and admired, Tiberius struggled to earn the respect and affection of the Roman people. His reserved nature and aversion to ostentation clashed with the expectations of a charismatic leader. This mismatch deepened his isolation, both emotionally and politically, creating rifts that would affect his entire reign. Tiberius's relationship with power became increasingly complicated as his reign progressed. Feeling uncomfortable with Rome's intrigues and distrustful of those around him, he began to rely heavily on Lucius Aelius Sejanus, the prefect of the Praetorian Guard. Sejanus was a shrewd and ambitious man who quickly became Tiberius's closest confidant. With skill, he manipulated information and influenced decisions, consolidating his own power while feeding the emperor's insecurities. In 26 AD, tired of the pressures and perceived betrayals in the capital, Tiberius made the decision to retire to the island of Capri. From there, he intended to rule from a distance, believing that physical isolation would protect him from political intrigues. However, this choice had profound consequences. His absence in Rome created a power vacuum that Sejanus did not hesitate to fill. As the intermediary between the emperor and the Senate, Sejanus controlled the flow of information, manipulating the administration to suit his interests. Meanwhile, in Rome, rumors began to circulate about the life Tiberius led in Capri. Stories of excess and questionable behavior spread, further damaging his reputation. Although many of these allegations may have been exaggerated or fabricated by his political enemies, they contributed to the image of a distant and decadent ruler. The atmosphere in the capital grew grim. Sejanus, taking advantage of Tiberius's trust, initiated a series of political purges. Senators and influential citizens were accused of treason on dubious grounds. The Maestas laws, designed to protect the dignity of the emperor, were used to silence opponents and eliminate rivals. Fear spread through Rome, and distrust became the norm. Tiberius, isolated in Capri, seemed either oblivious or indifferent to what was happening. His correspondence with the Senate was sparse and often ambiguous, increasing confusion about his intentions. Some historians suggest that he was aware of Sejanus's actions, but allowed them to continue for convenience, or because he believed they were necessary to maintain order. Others argue that Tiberius was manipulated and kept in the dark by his supposed ally. Regardless of the truth, Tiberius's withdrawal from the political heart of Rome deepened his isolation, both physical and emotional. His distrust turned into paranoia, and he saw conspiracies everywhere. This mentality contributed to increasingly severe decisions and to the perpetuation of a climate of terror that would negatively mark his legacy. Tension in Rome reached its peak when Tiberius finally realized the true extent of Sejanus's ambitions. Information reached him about the Praetorian prefect's plans to usurp the throne, possibly by eliminating members of the imperial family to consolidate his power. Feeling betrayed by someone he had deeply trusted, Tiberius acted swiftly and decisively. In 31 AD, through a letter sent to the Senate, Tiberius denounced Sejanus, ordering his immediate arrest. The reversal took Rome by surprise. Sejanus, who had until then wielded enormous influence, was arrested and executed on the same day. The abrupt fall of his chief advisor triggered a series of purges. Followers and associates of Sejanus were hunted down, tried, and in many cases, condemned to death. The climate of fear intensified, and distrust permeated all levels of society. Tiberius's health began to decline in the following years. Isolated in Capri, he seemed increasingly disconnected from the reality of Rome. In 37 AD, Tiberius died at the age of 77. The circumstances of his death remain shrouded in mystery. Some sources suggest that he may have been assassinated by order of Caligula or the Praetorian prefect Macro, eager to hasten the succession. With Caligula's rise to power, the new emperor was welcomed with enthusiasm by the Roman people, eager for change. Young and charismatic, Caligula quickly reversed many of Tiberius's policies and sought to erase his predecessor's legacy. He ordered the destruction of statues and symbols associated with Tiberius, promoting a campaign that portrayed him as a cruel and depraved tyrant. Ancient historiography, influenced by the narratives of his successors and writers like Tacitus and Suetonius, perpetuated this negative image. Tiberius's contributions to the empire's stability, his administrative reforms, and his military prudence were eclipsed by accounts of his personal flaws and the excesses attributed to his retreat in Capri. Thus, Tiberius became the forgotten emperor of Rome. His reign, marked by significant achievements, was overshadowed by the shadows of political intrigue and by the actions of those who came after him. His story raises questions about historical justice and how perceptions can be manipulated to serve specific interests. Tiberius's death marked the end of a complex and deeply ambiguous reign in Rome's history. His trajectory, from aristocratic origins to isolation in Capri, reveals the duality of a man torn between duty to the state and his own personal reservations about power. While he maintained the empire's stability and strengthened its borders, Tiberius never fully managed to win the trust and affection of the Roman people. His reserved personality and lack of charisma contrasted sharply with the figure of Augustus, making the expectations surrounding his reign difficult to meet. Political intrigues, reliance on questionable advisors like Sejanus, and a propensity for isolation contributed to a negative perception that persisted after his death. The smear campaign promoted by his successors and perpetuated by ancient historians solidified the image of Tiberius as a distant and cruel tyrant. However, a more balanced analysis of his legacy reveals that Tiberius was a competent administrator who kept Rome's governmental and financial structures intact. His prudence in foreign policy avoided unnecessary conflicts and preserved resources for the empire. Unfortunately, his achievements were overshadowed by his personal flaws and the adverse narratives that followed. Tiberius's story offers valuable lessons about the exercise of power and the nature of leadership. It highlights the dangers of isolation and distrust, as well as the importance of communication and connection with those one governs. Moreover, it demonstrates how historical memory can be influenced by political agendas, leading to the forgetting or distortion of individual contributions. Re-evaluating the figure of Tiberius is an exercise in historical justice. Recognizing both his achievements and his failures allows for a deeper understanding not only of the man, but also of the complexities of the Roman Empire. Ultimately, Tiberius represents the struggle between public duty and personal conflict, a timeless narrative that continues to resonate in studies of power and legacy. Subscribe to the channel for more surprising stories.